been through this thing several times. I'll try and get through it. Our mom, Joelle Everett. Do you know what it's like to have a mom who walked from the shower at the opposite end of the house all the way through to her room wearing nothing but a towel on her head? Mom taught us to be proud of ourselves and to be accepting of ourselves and others. She was loving, kind, very insightful, caring, gentle, thoughtful, often inspiring. She was a very devoted mother and wife to our father. She was dedicated, she guided us through our lives, and she was very hardworking. You didn't see Mom sit back and let other people do things. Those are just a few of the encyclopedia of words that could be used to describe our mother, Joelle Everett. Since July 6th, my head has been flooded with memories. I'm already missing her. Her laughter, wry comments. Mom had a great sense of humor. And I remember her very sage advice at various times. Some of the things that came to the top are fun, amusing, educational, and insightful. We always ate well. Mom was a very good cook and tried out all sorts of interesting recipes, many of which would be termed ethnic recipes today. We grew up with a well-rounded palate, but it was never a case of you have to clean your plate. You were always encouraged to try something, and I've done that with my sons. We have something in my house growing up called a no thank you bite. They work pretty well. As I was about to, insert some questionable deed or action here, Mom would say, you can always do what you want to, but remember, there are consequences to your words and actions, good and bad, and you need to be prepared to accept them with grace. That was probably one of the sagest things that she said consistently through our lives. And even now, I ask my sons, did we learn anything after something didn't work out exactly as planned? Mom's empathy came out and her caring came out in things like sitting with my wife Joey while we were still just dating and consoling her and crying with her over the recent loss of Joey's own mother. And Joey has always commented that she felt immediately loved and accepted by Mom and Dad. Their house is filled with original art and memorabilia from travels, family, art books, and just generally a life well lived. I've always told my friends that I think I won the parent lottery. I couldn't have asked for better parents. And that is how I hope we remember Mom. A very live, loving spirit. Now a word from our sponsor, my dad, Paul.
You did that very well, Aaron. Very well. Welcome to our recognition and celebration of Joelle's life. You are a blessing to me and to my family. I thank you for giving us and Joelle your most precious possession, your life's time, by being here, by choosing to be here now. Do you understand that? My eulogy is built around three main themes. I say this so as they interweave, you will not get lost. The first will be short stories about our lives together, from 1959 until now. The second will be some of the comments about Joelle from her many friends in multiple organizations, mostly from two: the Creative Problem Solving Institute in Buffalo, New York, called SIPSI, and so I'll be saying that, SIPSI, and Open Space. The third will be Joelle's poems themselves, all but one from her book, Strange and Wonderful Things. We are giving it as a gift at the reception to all who are here who may want one. If there's multiple persons from a single family, then maybe just take one. But there are enough, I think. These books are all that are left from the original printing. The following is from the back cover of her book. Yes, the wind. The best fresh bread does not fill all my hollows. A good paycheck still leaves places in my soul that hunger for stories and thirst for dreams, and would do magic with stone, seashell, feather, and leaf as red as flame. And then on the back of the book it says, Joelle Everett and her husband lived between forest and water in southwest Washington state, learning from friends, her 4 fine sons, the wild world around her, and a growing inner voice. She writes poems to remember my life. She leads workshops and edits an online newsletter. Here are 2 quotes by 2 key people: Harrison Owen, who invented Open Space, and Jan Phillips, who led her 6-woman team to Russia to give seminars to women-led organizations. From Harrison: Joelle writes as she lives, with quiet passion and deep intensity. For a number of years, I guess she wrote mostly for herself, and only occasionally would sneak a piece out the door to a favored reader. Some of the pieces are listed in the book. I am pleased to say that I was so blessed. I am even more pleased that she has now chosen to open the door a little wider. This is from Jan Phillips. Joelle Everett's poems are delicate and powerful, lyrical and solemn. She is a seeker, a pilgrim on the journey, and her poems tell the story of a soul seeking light, an elegant collection with an expansive range. Here are 4 acknowledgments. Thank you to my husband Paul for his unwavering support and for his custom of washing the dinner dishes, which has often created a space for me to put a poem down on paper. I was a good dishwasher. To Morris was her counselor, her main counselor, for insisting that I speak my own truth in public and checking often on the growing book. To William, a talented poet himself, for reading many poems and giving specific and useful feedback, and for calling long distance once in a while just to talk about a poem. Now listen to that word, long distance. Anybody here understand that? No, not anymore. They don't. William was, he is only way to describe it is he's a psychic masseuse, and he is truly psychic. He will find your problems in your body unerringly. To Lynette and to Linda, whose enthusiasm and caring re-energized me to finish the last few poems. These poems are for Benjamin, Mark, and Kara with love. We didn't have the other two grandchildren who are here. You weren't left out on purpose at the time. Here is the first poem in Joelle's book of poems that I will be sharing today, I hope. Dark heart of the forest. Where I expected dark, I find living water. At the heart of the forest, a flame. The moon's rising dwarfs the heavy hills. A new leaf reaches for the sky. Why should I fear to walk the dark heart of the forest? How did we meet? At the Baptist Disciple Student Center in the spring of 1959. We began to date and gradually fell deeply in love. Christmas 1959, I was home in Bellingham, feeling bereft, while she was home in Spokane. I asked Joelle to marry me Valentine's Day 1960. She said yes. Boy, am I thankful she didn't say no. But we had over a year to go to graduate, so we dated and waited and studied together in the U of W library. I would walk her back to her dorm and bid her goodnight with a hug and a kiss. We graduated in June 1961. President Kennedy was our graduation speaker. Not by anything we did. Both our families were there for a big celebration. That means my parents and Joelle's parents and children and my brothers were there. My mother and brother Joel had graduated from Western the prior week. Somebody bumped the oven controls and we burned a turkey while we were at the graduation ceremonies. When we returned, there was smoke. But we carved it away anyway and ate the underside. After working apart in the summer, let me go back to that. 4 people, my mother, my brother, myself, and my wife, all graduated in the same week. After working apart in the summer, we married on August 26, 1961, one day after Joelle's 22nd birthday. We took a 2-week honeymoon in Canada, swimming in Lake Okanagan, exploring Vancouver and then Victoria, ending in Bellingham for a reception because my parents' people in the church, First Baptist Church, couldn't travel to Spokane. Then Seattle to begin grad school. She earned a master's in library science, and I earned a master of forestry later. I finished my major paper when working. I'm good at procrastination. I began work for Simpson Timber Company in Shelton, Washington as an industrial engineer for Washington operations, November 1962. Aaron was born April 30th, 1963. Best looking baby in the nursery. In our first 8 years, we had 3 sons, Aaron, Hugh on April 23rd, 1966, and John, April 17th, 1968. Joelle was a very busy mom and homemaker and a great cook, as Aaron noted. In 1969, notice that is about 8 years after we've been married, we began 2 years of night courses at Seattle University that would greatly influence our lives. Executive thinking, which is a philosophical exploration of the thought of the West, led by Father Toulouse, and executive psychology, the psychology of the personal self, led by Ed Marr. Joelle was the only woman in the executive thinking seminar with over 20 men. As Father Toulouse, who was terribly sexist, by the way, went around the room, when he got to Joelle, he didn't call her by name, he said, "Sweetie." At the break, Joelle went up to Father Toulouse and said, "My name is Joelle, and I want to be called that." From then on, he did. A year later, a friend of mine took the same course, Al Symington, and he reported to me that Father Toulouse specifically mentioned Joelle as a woman who taught him that women could think. Peggy Holman of the Open Space Group says, "I will remember her as a fierce, compassionate, creative light and friend." She could be fierce. I'll tell you more about that. We had 4 hours every week to have deep conversations about what we were learning and about our lives together as we drove to Seattle and back to Shelton. Every Monday night. This was incredibly beneficial and powerful for our relationship, not to mention personal awareness and development. One night, when we got back, or perhaps it was the next day, Joelle asked Aaron, "How was it to have the babysitter there?" And she said, "Oh, Mom, she reads in a flat voice." Well, the problem is that I'm a ham, and when I read to the kids, I didn't read that way. So they were spoiled. At the end of executive thinking, I thought maybe all my other education, bachelor's and master's and everything, was worth maybe a nickel. It was a good nickel because I earned my living doing it. But I asked Joelle, "Where has this been all my life?" And Joelle looked at me and she said, "Upper campus." Well, you see, I was spending all my time on lower campus, doing science, biology, math, forestry, industrial engineering, all that kind of stuff. I was down there. I never got it to upper campus, except for English. David was born in March 1974. Joelle and I were still advancing in the areas of personal development through studies, seminars, numinous experiences, not numerous experiences, numinous experiences, experiences of the Spirit, and the beginning of parallel but different interests She is home raising 4 fine sons. I am advancing my organization to encompass larger studies that support management decision making, now called operations improvement. Much travel, too much in sad retrospect. Here is a poem about parallel lives, raising progeny, by Joelle, called Deer in Summer. The deer are on the roads this morning, slipping across the pavement from brush on one side to greener pastures on the other. I think they are does with nursing fawns, too hungry to wait for nightfall. I remember when my sons were nursing, buying finger food to snack on, filling a thermos with hot malted milk to sip at 3 in the morning while the baby sucked. Today, my sons are tall, strong men with babies of their own. At midsummer, the deer are brazen, grazing everywhere at midday, queens of the world. One nibbles along the creek. We have a creek in our 7 acres. Walks through the yard, settles under a tree to eat green apples, steadily meeting my gaze each time I pass. My breasts ache, remembering the constant hunger, the feeling of milk pouring in when the baby cried. I salute the young doe, mother to mother. May your children be tall and strong, good at leaping fences like mine. In 1980, we met with a man who was starting a 2-year training in organization development. I said, not for me now, but Joelle said, yes, for me. David is 6, and Joelle now has time for finding an additional life path. She worked hard and learned many interesting and important methods and processes for enabling people to learn and thrive. In February 1982, Joelle had her first consulting assignment with Waldo Hospital in North Seattle. 5 days at $300 a day. Inflation adjusted, that would be $925 a day today. She was very excited. We also continued our personal studies and spiritual development through readings, seminars, and events, including several 3-day intensive meditation experiences, one of which, by facing each other and being in a deep meditation, we fell into each other. I can't describe it any other way. This is Advent. Not the green fur crooked on one side, heavy with bright balls, small treasures, the accumulated handiwork of a generation of first graders. But the tree of life, springing forth in darkness, its candles lighted one by one, for those who can see flashes of the God within. Not the paper angel with mica-glittered wings, nor even the child, floppy-winged, haloed with tinsel, wide-eyed in awe of the flaring candle, but the angel of the Lord, calling my life, my truth into being, lighting the path just one step ahead, calling me out into the darkness, alone. Not the familiar sweet warmth of the baby stirring and sighing as he sleeps, heavy against my breast, wrapped snug against the cold, hidden from all harm. But the Lord of the universe, bringing down kings and kingdoms, calling the old world of pain and darkness slowly, ever so slowly, to its end, irrevocably to its end. O Lord of the whirlwind and empty spaces, show me the flame and light me. Light up the sky as I stand cold and waiting. Light me a place in the end and the beginning, newborn. Joelle continued to receive assignments and, equally important, participated in various organizations and events that furthered her knowledge and capabilities in the organization development area. Among these were the Creative Problem Solving Institute in Buffalo, New York, which we attended multiple years, and the Open Space Institute, which I'll speak more of. Here are comments about Joelle from the Creative Problem Solving Institute community. I am reminded of her gentle, cheerful, and inquisitive spirit, which I met more than half a lifetime ago at the numerous SIPSEs. John Lampland. Very sad on learning of Joelle's passing. I had the good luck of being a co-leader with her at the SIPSE. My prayers go out to you, Paul, and your 4 sons. Larry Ostuni. Sorry to hear this, although I believe that she is released, as you said, another star in the firmament. She was a bright star among us too, so smart, strong, and creative. Nancy Wilson Rhodes on the East Coast. Paul, I am grateful for the many years and experiences that we shared together at SIPSE, and sometimes aside from SIPSE. It seems that transitions from the human realm are always a mixture of sadness, and yet a sense of release when illness has incapacitated one's ability to live a meaningful life. My heart goes out to you and your family. John Honecker. Comments from the open space community. Sad news out of Shelton, Washington from Joelle's husband, Paul. For those who didn't know her, Joelle was one of the rocks in the foundation of open space in the world, and certainly my own OS practice. A mischievous curiosity, quiet generosity, and powerful spirit. I am otherwise out of words at the moment. One of Joelle's poems that resonated on the OS list years ago, 2003, listen to this. Not 1 second out of date today. Remember I said 2003. Found when I searched the archives for a Joelle poem. This is from Michael Herman. And this is the poem. And there isn't a title. I'm breathing the smoke of gunshots, mortars, and missiles, and oil wells burning. I'm stirring in the night, hearing children crying and mothers keening. The soft spring breeze has the grit of desert sandstorm. The night sky is torn by explosives, cut by the arc of a missile. There's no place far enough to put my heart at ease. Can I buy another chance? I want to refuse to take sides. I want to imagine a world more spacious and more intimate. I want the courage to buy homes, meals, school books, instead of guns and tanks. I want to be peace, wild, fierce, and sweet. Another poem on the same theme. This was Kosovo on the Evening News. The Evening News is nightmare country, Flames leaping to low clouds, rough chunks of concrete, tangled iron, beams that hold up only sky. And poor sky it is, full of smoke and cinder and the smell of death. The Allies have bombed a train and a caravan loaded with refugees and apologized for it. But the limp and blood-stained bodies do not hear. A man with a mud-spattered wheelbarrow hauls away the dead. 100,000 people are on the roads tonight, knowing in the minute they saw their neighbor killed in the street, the cows dying, the houses torched by soldiers, we have no home and no place. What would I do in the last 10 minutes? What would I carry to who knows where? All the clothes I could wear? Heavy shoes? I saw a picture of a man and his family. 2 small boys wore sturdy red snow pants and jackets. At least they'll be home, warm. Bumping along in the tractor cart, thinking of all we left behind. Grandma's goose feather pillows with handmade cases. Our wedding picture. My biggest mixing bowl. The boys' trains. My hard bread is wet with tears. This story isn't new. Just on the other channel, they're showing pictures of the ship that brought German Jews to America 60 years ago. But no one would let them in. Just one of a long chain of stories, none of them good. How would you change this story if you could? Another OS letter. Grand rising, beloved warrior, soldier, husband, and father. Thank you for holding her hand. Thank you for loving her and all she loved. Thank you for taking care of yourself while you say so long. I am inspired and moved by your love for your wife. To be loved, to love someone who loves you back is awesome. I know the feeling. May the community be all that you need at this time, in this season of your wonderful life. May I take up the mantle of peace she has left behind for us. Respectfully, K. Sweetness Jennings. Please accept my condolences. Joelle was a star. I loved her smile, the clarity with which she spoke and expressed herself. And I was touched that she gifted me a book of her poetry. Rafi Aftandalian, Russian interpreter and translator. Thank you, Paul. It was a touching, heart-touching and poetic obituary, which shows beauty of the soul and the talents of your charming and accomplished wife. She had the most warm and engaging smile, and her face on this photo just radiates with some inner beautiful glow. I hope that all the great memories of your life together will sustain you during the next difficult days and will give you strength and peace. Gajina Patella from Canada. Now this is back into our marriage time. During the latter part of the 1980s and into the early 1990s, Joelle was deeply involved in a group making movies in similar-sized towns in the Soviet Union and the USA. The objective was to show that people have the same desires, issues, and lives in both places, hoping to bring about a peaceful reconciliation between the USA and the then Soviet Union. I was privileged to be on one of those trips. It was personally powerful and illuminating. The transition in the 90s was traumatic for me. As I wrote in an email most of you received, my department was eliminated and the reading partnership failed. I was angry. I was also on the road teaching my craft and consulting. One night in telephone conversation while on assignment in California, after having seen her counselor, Joelle said, "If you're going to be this angry the rest of your life, I don't want to live with you anymore." Fierceness, that gets your attention. One of our great teachers from South Africa, a mining engineer and consummate philosopher at the SIPSI, said, "You cannot long outperform your mental state." Mine was not good from the multiple betrayals. I began Jungian talk therapy once per week for 5 years. During that time, there was some tension between us that gradually dissipated, and I became more calm and aware, able to more fully love Joelle. In 1995, Joelle was found to have breast cancer. The next year and a half was spent recovering from all the treatment she underwent, both allopathic and naturopathic. She was determined to live and not die. David was home that summer, and he took her to Seattle for her chemo treatments and helped her at home. Then we rented an apartment in Seattle while she went through radiation that fall, and I was on the road consulting. So she was by herself. But the place of radiation was walkable from the apartment. This is called the season of black rain. Rain pounds the shingles through the dark day, bangs the tin chimney cap all the night long. Fingers of rain erase the view from my window, blurring hill and hollow to smoky gray. Lulled by the rain, I sink into the earth, gravity and darkness more compelling than candlelight or clear thought. No longer resisting, I embrace the black rain. I drop to a balance point as precise as a tightrope walker's pole. I will sink this far and no farther, buoyed by small stones and dense mud. Roots suck at the muddy soil for sustenance. Now the mud sucks at my body, searches for sweet, salty, bitter essences through the dark and sodden night. Tears of frustration, fear, and old sorrow stream down my cheeks, relentlessly washed by raindrops. In the long darkness, the rough tongue of the rain comes to feel like a wet caress. Rain drips from dark fir branches. Frogs and field mice flee for drier ground. The moon rises shrouded in storm clouds, gently stripes my wet face with silver. Tonight I can't remember warm wind through apple blossoms, or the sun-dappled flight of small goldfinches. I am wholly enfolded in the time of black rain. It was an extremely difficult time for us. Subsequent to that, about 1997, we both felt that we needed a rest. I was 60 and had been working since age 9. Gary maybe remembers our paper corner at the White House Market, which was the best market in Bellingham at the time. And the statement about the White House was, "You may never be president, but someday we'll see you in the White House." And it was a great corner. We would earn between $5 and $6 most Saturdays, and we shared it with Gary's family, the Smith family. That was a lot of money in those days. Ice cream cones were a nickel. A huge milkshake from the Hillview Dairy, thick as you just can hardly believe, was 25 cents. It gives you an idea of what $5 meant. Also, Joelle's mother had passed away much earlier, and her father died in 1995. My parents were needing help, so we took 2 years off to do other things and rest. The universe was kind, and neither of us had any requests for consulting during that time. In early 2002, we had a request for some OD work. Now that wasn't my field. I wasn't sure what to do about it. I came home and discussed it with Joelle. The next day, she presented me with a 5-part plan to involve the entire group that was just brilliant. They immediately said yes. Joelle and I worked as a team for a total of 5 weeks over a year's time. The spacing was to allow the new practices to sink into the organizational culture. You see, doing consulting isn't about coming in and telling other people what to do. It's about coming in and enabling them to discover it. I was also working with the Operations and Maintenance Division of Olympia for 2 solid years. It was nice to be home every evening and not on the road anymore. In 2004, we were retired, but still involved in Joelle's open space work. We went to events in Australia. That was a wonderful trip. Denmark, another one. Eastern Canada, another one. Both my parents and brother Joel and his wife Wendy died and are buried here. Joelle spent a lot of time in her writing cabin. That was her refuge from an inquisitive husband. The decade was peaceful, but full of leavings. Joelle's book club was an important part of her life at this point. She read over 100 books of every genre. What a mind and soul. Here are just 2 examples. One of them is Women in Praise of the Sacred, 43 centuries of spiritual poetry by women. And Circle of Wisdom, a journey with the Glastonbury grandmothers. Now in this other book here, Hildegard of Bingen is in there. She's a very famous woman on multiple accounts as a physician and so forth in her years in some centuries ago. But these and other kinds of both fiction and non-fiction books were read by her group and by Joelle, more than 100. In 2019, Joelle began to evidence both physical and mental issues. She had a brace for one leg and was still able to get around but not drive. When it became clear in 2021 that this was to be a decline into death, we got our estate in order and all that that means. She had both Parkinson's and dementia. I was her caregiver, and soon Hugh arrived in February 2021. A great blessing for us both, especially me because he's a great cook and I'm not. This is a poem called Opening. Opening. Something in me wants to shine, wants to grow overnight, wants to stretch thin new branches, open buds and spread leaves delicately against the morning sky. Something in me wants to sing, the crescent moon rising, tangled in black leafed branches, wants to spin an evening song, counterpoint to the frogs' refrain. Something in me wants to flash, as hot and bright as a meteor, dancing across a summer sky, telling secrets to a few lucky skywatchers, turning myself from stone to light. There is a space in my chest that's crowded with opening leaves and clumps of white flowers, and words and moonlight and music, and a stone with the path of a meteor scribed on its dark underside in tears. We have had an extraordinary life together. I am blessed for having lived it with her, bumps and all, and we had bumps. I am saddened beyond words that it is over, partly because of this eulogy process, which I've spent 4 days writing. I've discovered a side of her that I was only tangentially aware of, and feel a deep loss at not knowing it sooner and more deeply. I want to close with 3 poems. One sent me from Joelle's Russian friend, Peggy Holman, which she received on the death of her mother. One I wrote during our courtship days, and one Joelle wrote in her book. From Peggy Holman. The title of the poem, not by her, Give What's Left of Me Away. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old men who wait to die. If you must cry, cry for your brother who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, or helped in some special way. If you cannot give me away, let me live in your eyes for a while, as well as in your mind. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms, embracing the frightened ones. Love does not die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. That's by Merritt Malloy. Here's a poem I wrote during our courtship. It's only 2 stanzas. I love you for everything you are and mean to me, for all the precious thoughts and hopes and dreams. I see thee in each enchanting reverie, each moment that I spend with thee. I love you. I love you, soft lights in your eyes are gently glowing, as quietly we sit and share our thoughts. And from thy lips, as sweetest music flowing, come phrases that set my pulsing heart glowing. I love you. This final poem is Lake of Fire by Joelle. I'm older than the hills. I'm growing to an enormous height, sinking roots like sinews through dirt and small pebbles, passing beyond bedrock to the lake of fire, the molten heart. The fire in my heart is burning my body, consuming the fragile flesh, burnishing the metallic frame that cradles spirit, welcoming me to my true life. As leaves fall from the tree, its whole intelligence is contained in the intricate design of trunk, limb, and branches. My bones are stripped to dazzling whiteness, appliqued with silver and with gold, for the work of ritual, ceremony, initiation, healing, transformation, and the cry that calls the soul out of hiding. I have traded the tenderness of my flesh for roots, a heart on fire, and the fierceness of a circling hawk. I thank you, Joelle, with all my heart and soul, for a lifetime of love, adventure, learning, forgiving our mistakes, for fiercely speaking truth to me when I needed to hear it, for doing much of the work of raising our 4 fine sons, for our growing and becoming more fully alive, more aware, more whole. Together, I am truly blessed, as are all who knew you. Amen and amen.